looking at page 10, let's go over the persuasive speech description. And we will look at what you need and what you should have in this speech according to the description. So persuasive speaking, when people think about persuasive speaking, they oftentimes think that it's something, how many of you think, persuasive speaking, I need to change people's minds, change people's behaviors, change people's ideas, get them to do something. For those of you who aren't raising your hand, then what do you think persuasion is?
What you said.
To change their perspective?
Yeah. Trying to convince them. To persuade my audience to go to college. How many of you need changing?
Not many.
None. Persuasion isn't always getting people to change their mind. It often can also be, what? Yes, a reinforcement of the existing beliefs, attitudes, and values you have towards a situation that does have two opposing sides, correct? People who go to church every Sunday and hear a message about, let's say if you go to a Christian church and you're going to church every Sunday, you aren't going with the intention of being changed. That pastor doesn't write those messages to change you to become a Christian, let's say. Maybe they want you to change your behavior or action in some way, and that's what maybe the lesson is. But it's a reinforcement of the ideals or the beliefs that you already have and are already existing. A friendly reminder. Does that make sense? So don't think of it as always something like you're doing and you have to manipulate you and you have to get into your head. No. Persuasion can, as it says at the top here, is the process of changing or reinforcing the attitudes, beliefs, values, or actions of your particular audience. So in this assignment, you are expected to follow all the principles of basic delivery, maintain a clear central idea throughout, and provide a variety of effective supporting materials. Particular emphasis is going to be placed on your analysis of your issues and your ability to defend or attack those issues that you have. You will need to conduct research, which we know on your topic. You're going to be required to, again, provide us 3 outside sources within your speech. You will probably use more than 3 on this one because, why do you think you will use more than 3? The length, but also with persuasion versus informative speaking.
You want to show, because you're taking one certain perspective on the topic that you're doing. So the more sources that you have, not only does it make you more, does it make your speech more credible, but you're presenting different supporting information.
Yes, and we want good supporting information. All of your informative speeches was already a proven fact. This is who this person is. This is where Mexico is. This is what the artifact is. This is what anxiety disorder is. Period. We weren't urging you that something is an issue or that it's a problem or that it's wrong or that it's bad or that it's harmful or hurtful. Nobody was persuading us on anything. Once we start to say it is wrong, in your head as an audience, you start to think what? Is it really wrong? I've been doing this my whole life. And you don't say, is it really wrong? You say, why? Why is it wrong? Right? And the worst answer that you can ever give someone is, because I said so. If your parents ever gave you a, because I said so, you're like, oh my gosh. But because I said so is not going to persuade anybody. That's not going to draw me to want to do it. So you are required now that you are trying to prove something is a fact. To provide us with evidence that proves that to be true. Does that make sense to you? So we'll go over how this will develop a bit more. But because a persuasive speech is urging you to change or take action or trying to get you to think differently or trying to understand how something is problematic, hurtful, harmful, etc., we need evidence to prove that to be true rather than giving us basic information. So will you have a lot of information in your speech? Yes, but that information is all there for a purpose, and it's there for us to be persuaded. So we'll go over that a little bit more as the time develops. So in regards, like you said, which was perfect, it does. It builds your credibility, having good research. But additionally, it's also going to help the argument itself. Remember to find novel information or something that's new and that's exciting. People are giving me a speech on smoking. I mean, it's fine, but I've heard it 100,000 times. If you're passionate about smoking and not smoking, just don't smoke. I will not let you give a speech about to persuade my audience to smoke, right? We learned that in ethics. But I will encourage you that if you're doing a speech on smoking, that you go out and you search for new information and you search for new evidence that's going to draw your audience to make them not want to smoke. Because right now, like a commercial with dancing cigarettes in Times Square or showing a lady with a trachea still isn't working. People are still smoking. So what is the new evidence out there that's going to really draw your audience to not smoke? Remember that your audience will be more likely persuaded if you offer them, like it says, novel evidence. And so you'll need to conduct the research, find out what is new, what's interesting, what's credible. Go back to the radar resources if you need to make sure that your sources are credible. But otherwise, go back to the online sources that we have here in the library. If you are struggling with finding like pro-con arguments, there is an amazing resource called Opposing Viewpoints. There's also another resource that's called CQ Researcher. These are both databases. However, your library does not have them, and I am more than happy to access this for you through the LMU library and get you some resources that you can use. Or your local library has these resources as well. So you can always go and see if you can pull something from there. Research must be cited in your speech out loud, which you know we need to hear 3 quotations out loud. So that means you need to state the author's title, etc. Then you need to cite your sources inside your outline with both the MLA format of the setup and your parenthetical representation. And then finally, you need to put that in a works cited page. If any of you got marked down for MLA format or your works cited and it wasn't done properly, you let me know how I can help you figure that out. But if you understood what you did wrong, just make those changes for next time so you don't have to get points marked off. Remember to practice your delivery, and then you also must have a visual aid in the speech, one visual aid that aids in the development of your speech. This is the time when charts or statistics or graphs may come in handy to help show your audience exactly what you're talking about or exactly how many people are harmed by this or hurt by your topic. And again, it doesn't have to be the most dramatic topic ever. It can be very easy in persuasion. Anybody have any questions on that? Please note that this persuasive speech checklist is here, and you can always look to it to remind yourself what you need to bring. And then the last thing that is here is your evaluation sheet that you bring in on the day that you are required to speak. Here is my message to all of you. On the day that you are speaking, and how many of you have your speech date? Everybody? Who didn't get their speech date? Let's do it that way. Okay, come up after and we'll get you your speech date. On your speech date, you already know that you have to have your evaluation sheet, your outline, and your works cited page stapled together. Everybody put their foot down. Okay. you have your evaluation sheet, your outline, and your works cited page, yes? It should all be stapled together, and what should be at the top? Your name. You can do all of that before you get where?
Here.
So the second you put your number up, what do you do with that outline?
Turn it.
Call it a day. I am so done with not having outlines, with not being stapled, with I couldn't print it, with oh God, oh I forgot to give it to you. Make sure that that is all. We've been doing this since the beginning of class, and then I write it all the descriptions up on the board, but then everybody forgets it there too. Step it up. Follow directions. It's so easy. It's literally stapling 5 pieces of paper. And I give you the staple. If you don't have one. Now, here's the problem. Amanda, my computer wasn't working. My printer wasn't working. Working ahead is a great way to do that. I can't wait till the first day you walk into your job and you're like, oh, sorry, my computer wasn't working. Your job's like, okay, you're out of here, fired. Here's the deal. Didn't know what to do. Well, you can email me and say, hey, Amanda, I couldn't get my computer to work. So I emailed you my outline the day before and I'll print it out for you. I don't have an evaluation sheet. Can you bring me one? Yes, I can. Thank you for asking me the day before. All of these things I can help you out with. Sound good? Amanda, I want to print out this picture as a visual aid, but my printer doesn't print in color. Will you do it for me? You know it.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good? Okay. Don't be scared. If you ask me in advance, I'm as happy as a clam to do it. If you ask me afterwards, although you may not know that. No, you do. Let's cruise to 30. 3? What was it?
33.
Let's cruise to 33. All right. Persuasive speaking, like we just went over in the description, is a speech that is designed to
Reinforce.
or change. So a speech that is designed to reinforce or change an audience's attitudes, beliefs, values, or actions. Fantastic. Feel free to write that down in the definition, or you can go back and do it later. The difference in this speech than the other speech is that it's persuasive, not informative, so that's for sure. But there is a fine line between persuasive speaking and informative speaking. What do you think that fine line is?
What's the
Okay, good. So you can for sure give your, but in your informative speech, like let's say I was talking about a place that I went to or what your experience even personally was. Like for me this worked, for me this didn't work. It's still your opinion or your perspective. It does. You can assert your opinion or your perspective within an informative speech. Yeah.
Your enthusiasm.
Damn, that is important, right? And it's always important to be enthusiastic. But why in persuasion are you suggesting it's a little bit different?
You have to be. You have to show emotion while you're trying to convince someone. So you can't just be monotone. You gotta, look everyone in the eye and kind of, try to bring it home. I guess what you're trying to convince them about.
Bring it home. Make them feel those feelings. How do you make somebody get angry? How do you make somebody get mad? How do you make somebody feel sad? How do you make them feel the same emotion that those other people are going through? How do we create that empathy? Well, sure, it's in the choices that we make of our supporting materials and our examples. And we'll talk about this crazy thing called pathos that our friend Aristotle came up with, an emotional appeal, using language or examples, etc. But also, you can write all that content down. But if I'm like, little Billy was sick, he had a hard time, it wasn't good for him, he's done. Nobody is feeling it. So you're right, like developing that. That's going to be incredibly important. But just like we're talking about like quantum physics, if we talk about quantum physics mechanically and monotone, is anybody going to be interested? No, we have to bring it to life. We've got to bring it home and we use our voice and we use our face. What else?
You have to argue both sides.
Good. Because now we actually have what? You have an opinion, sure, but you have a position. You've taken a stance on something. You have become an advocate on behalf of an issue. So, a persuasive speech is one that has a need attached to it. We can't argue about things that can't be argued. To persuade my audience that the sun will come out tomorrow. This is not a worthy persuasive message. Why? It's going to happen. To persuade my audience that the sky is blue. It's not a persuasive speech. To persuade my audience that they should go to college in this classroom. Is there a need? To persuade my audience to stay in college. Good. So to persuade we can talk about smoking. How many of you in here smoke? If you are all honest right now, this is the first time that I've ever had a classroom that has done this. I know there's one person who smokes in here, but that person may not be here today, but that's only because I smell that person. Because I'm a former smoker, so I'm always like, just kidding. Randomly, since being pregnant, I used to look. Wow, I should probably put this on video. Talk about that later. I'm a former smoker. Just put that out there. I think I only have 5 years or so until my lungs are fully regenerated. 3 years.
Is that true?
Oh, I guess I only have 3 years left until my lungs are better. Yeah, it takes 10 years.
10 years to regenerate after
smoking, yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. So stop now, because, by the time you're 40, it's like, well, so many other things are wrong with me. I'm going to throw this in there, too. And I got these shitty lungs. Okay, I'm putting this online. All right, here we go. So there has to be a need. One, that it can be argued, and two, that it's relevant to whom? My audience. I say that to you all because you have a live and active audience in front of you. Ones who have opinions and who have ideas. Ones who can go out there and who can really make change on this. If it's something that doesn't affect them directly, or you think it's something that doesn't affect them directly, I would think again. Because most persuasive messages, if we want to talk about something like deportation. Well, I don't know anybody who's going to get deported, so this doesn't affect me. Oh no, that affects, it's like, oh no, racism affects everyone. Feminism affects everyone. It is everybody's issue, right? Immigration, it's everybody's issue. You're invested in it one way or another. So is there a need, is there a social need to make this happen? When picking a persuasive topic, your topic is one thing. So a topic, we know from informational speaking, can be something like Coca-Cola, Nike, Hey, play. Is that how you spell it? Yeah. Great. These are topics. Doesn't tell us anything about what your speech is going to be. We don't know what your speech is going to be until you all wrote your what?
Your outline, your intro, your thesis.
Your main point? What's the part of the speech or the thesis that tells you exactly what this speech is about?
Your main points.
Well, that make sense? What was that statement you had to write? It's called a central
idea.
Oh my gosh! Oh, okay, there we go, everybody. Right? This topic is only a topic. It's only when you write the
Central idea.
that then you know what your point of speaking is. It's what your speech is about. Remember, what your speech is about and how you're going to talk about it is your thesis statement. Central idea, main points. In persuasion, the topic is simply the topic. However, it is only once that you write your proposition that we know exactly what your speech is going to be about. What is a proposition? I've written it on the board for you. But as you see here on page 33, it says you will need to come up with 3 elements for your topic approval. The general purpose, the proposition, and the thesis statement. Note that the proposition, this word, is going to take the place of the central idea. They are essentially the same thing. The proposition is the reason we open our mouth. It is the guiding force behind our entire speech. It is what we use to choose supporting materials and ideas. But how will you come up with a way to accurately and most persuasively convince your audience? Well, that's coming up with a very effective proposition. And if you think about proposal, when Chad asked me to marry him, he got down on one knee and he proposed, and he hoped I would say no.
No.
No. He hoped I said
Yes.
yes. Each of you are getting down on one knee, and you're proposing to your audience that they say
Yes.
to that statement. So your proposition is what you want your audience to say
Yes.
yes to. What do you want them to say?
Yes.
Yes.
What if you want someone not to do something, like you're doing this should not?
And was that not the big issue with a little something we call Proposition 8?
Yes.
There we go. So let's bring that back. Prop 8, who's familiar? I'm going to come stand right here next
So
to
then-
you.
So let me just say
Hold
no.
on.
Okay.
So we don't want to say no because we have to have them say
Yes.
yes. Where have you heard the word propositions? In voting, right? Propositions are typically come out during voting years. You vote on particular propositions, which are essentially laws, rules, guidelines that you want, that are going to be put into place. The problem with Proposition 8 is that if we're talking about same-sex marriage, is that it was written to repeal same-sex marriage, that you wanted to say yes to taking it away. But many people were informed differently, saying that Prop 8,
It's for it.
exactly.
They read it wrong.
So we're reading the
wording.
So it is very tricky in these propositions, and for all of us to know what we're reading and what it's actually doing and what its, the purpose is. So the wording of it can become problematic. We still don't smoke. At the end, I want you to say, yes, I will.
Stop.
There you go.
So
So
you want,
I want my audience to say yes to whatever my claim
and
is.
that would
And
be
even if
the
it's
entire,
saying
the
don't do it.
proposition would be, I want my audience to say yes to.
Oh, no. Well, we'll
No.
write that up
All right.
in a second.
Okay.
But this is just the ideas that you want your audience to say yes to.
To
So
not.
note that every single proposition that is written is always going to be
Yes.
something that they want you to agree with.
Okay.
There'll be the counter argument, but they want it to be what they want you to agree with. It's not that they are saying yes on same-sex marriage. They're saying yes on repealing it.
Yeah.
So that's where the pickle presented itself with this Prop 8. Good question. Now, so that leaves us with this idea of something like this, smoking, abortion, gun control. These are all topics but we don't know what we want to do with them quite yet, because we haven't written our proposition. So like I said, in the interest of time in this class, we are going to narrow our focus and do one type of proposition. And that is the proposition of policy. There are three different types of propositions: propositions of fact, propositions of value, and propositions of policy. Propositions of policy are our most common type of proposition that we are going to see in active civic life, being able to, yes, vote, be able to, in a democratic environment, make our voices heard, to take action on something. If any of you are going into an area of marketing or advertising or public relations, these are all areas that you are going to be persuading probably the audience to do, to buy, to get, to take, etc. So that being said, we are going to look at the proposition of policy. A proposition of policy urges the audience to take action. It will typically involve in its statement the words should or should not, although it does not have to involve these two words. And so why do I say that? Let me make this statement. To persuade my audience that they should volunteer at Habitat for Humanity. It's a proposition of policy because I want you to, one, take action, aka volunteer, and two, it has the word should. Let me say it a different way. To persuade my audience to volunteer at Habitat for Humanity. Does it have the word should?
Yeah.
Is it still urging you to take action? Yes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to have the word should, but if it makes it easier on you to know that you have achieved your proposition of policy, you can do so. So all of you have an idea in mind as maybe what you want to do for your persuasive speech. That topic can be made into something where we are going to take action or to make change or to encourage my audience to do something. But there's two different ways that we can also look at persuasive policies. And it says here on the paper, there are two types of policies. Policies that are going to gain passive agreement and policies that will gain immediate attention. Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. You're just stretching. First, passive agreement. So what does it mean to passively agree? So for example, to persuade my audience that recreational marijuana should be legal in California. Can I go out and make this possible today? Can I go out and vote on it today? Can I go out and make this possible as a law today? No. I have to wait till when?
Election.
An election. So I have to wait till next November to be able to take action on this, if it will even get on the ballot. That being said, it is something for passive agreement, that I'm all on board to take action. And even though I can't right now, I will in fact do so when the time presents itself. It's almost as if I was talking to a group of high school students about voting in their junior year of high school, and I was encouraging them all to vote. It would be passive agreement because either one, they aren't old enough, right, two, they hated it, never wanted to do it, I don't know, right? But would be a passive agreement as well. Immediate action is something that the audience can go out and do right now. So to persuade my audience to donate blood. Could you do that today if you wanted?
Yeah.
Yes. To persuade my audience to sign up next semester for a public speaking class. I don't know, is your registration wrong?
Next week.
Ah, see? Perfect.
16.
Oh man. I really need a third class. I only have 2. Maybe it will come. We'll cross our fingers. persuade my audience to stop drinking energy drinks? Can they do that right now? Yes!
I'll listen.
Make me see the light, people. I saw it for years, and for some reason, this past semester, I just picked it up. Probably because I have to be here at 6 in the morning, so I'm like, Anyway. Do these passive agreement and immediate action make sense to you both? Yes. Okay, good. So let's take a look at some types of propositions of policy. Each of us are going to come up with this information, right, for our homework. So let's go ahead and write it down. Everybody's general purpose is going to be the same. If you remember, you had last time to inform. This time, what do you think the 2 words that you're going to write off? Y'all, don't get crazy with me. To persuade. Absolutely. To persuade. Then all you do is bring that down for the proposition, right? To persuade my audience to use Uber when in need of a ride. Does it have the word should in it?
No.
Is it immediate action?
Yeah.
Okay, good. But am I going to go out and do it today?
No.
I could do it today, absolutely, and it can be, because we can always be taking, issues on it. Is this something like gun control?
No.
Immigration? Corporal punishment? No, friends. Pick a topic that's interesting to you. Think about it. What do I use every day in my life? Is there a product that I love that I use? Is there an experience that I've had that I would love somebody else to have? Is there a class that I've taken that I would encourage somebody else to take? Is there a law, a rule, a regulation here at Santa Monica College that I hate and I would love to change? Is there something in my culture specifically that is an issue of need to be addressed, to be changed, to be modified? And this doesn't have to be something like a rule or a regulation. To persuade my audience that the definition of masculinity needs to be changed. To persuade my audience to stop street harassing. Right? What is it, the crap that you see every day that you're like, ugh, so annoying. To persuade my audience to use their blinker. I had a speech like that one time. Is there a need for that?
Yes.
Yes! Hate it when I'm trying to turn out of a driveway and I want to turn right, but there's a car coming, and I'm like, yay, oh my gosh, I just need to go, and I've been waiting for the whole time, and then they all of a sudden come to a slow, and they put on their blinker right at the last minute and turn in, and you're like, son of a bitch. Yes, there's a need for that. Like, what is it in your everyday life that just irks you or makes you mad or makes you want to scream out from the rooftops, or that you love, or that you're excited or you're passionate about? This is what you should speak about. Again, it does not have to be something dramatic and crazy. It can be something as simple as to take an Uber, or to drink more water, or to get out and exercise, or to try to incorporate a vegetable in your day, or to stop using the word guys. What? That maybe should be your statement. All right, let's look at some examples down here. If you see, it says that the federal government should legalize recreational marijuana. SMC should not recruit students from other colleges. You should visit a dentist twice a year, or in my count, 800 times. You should donate blood. You should take a public speaking class. You should not vote for Jones. These are all different types of propositions of policies, but all you have to do is add it on to your to persuade my audience to. The key word here is going to be to. Remember, last time you used the word about. Put that word in there. To persuade my audience about using Uber when in need of a ride. Is that persuasive?
No.
It's what? Or informative. It's a very easy way to know that you have an informative speech on your hands. Rather, you want to keep the word to there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, when you have a proposition of policy, your main points are already chosen for you. What, Amanda? You're right. None of you have to go home and think about what your 3 main points are going to be. I am going to give them to you. Is that exciting? All right. I had a student one time who was doing a persuasive policy speech, and he was a movie director, producer, I don't know what he did. And he wanted to practice a speech and develop it for us to invest in his movie. So I was like, okay, we can do this. Problem, cause, solution it, if you want to. He went through his entire speech, and he gave us information about what the movie was, and how it was going to be marketed, and to whom it would appeal, and how much money he thought it would generate.
Why should
Well, yeah, but he wanted to persuade us to donate. You know what he never gave us?
what? Contact info?
A way to donate.
Oh.
Or like how much to donate, or what we should, like he never gave us that. It's like, so if you want me to do something, you best give me what?
How?
Yeah, a way to do it. Don't just give me a bunch of information. That's not what I need. Like that's not giving me, sure, like I need that, but it's not encouraging me to take action on anything, because I can't take action because you didn't give me anything to action. So we need to come up with this crazy thing. It's called a plan. And that plan needs to be, read the word below it, practical. To persuade my college-age students to all donate $1,000 to me at the end of the speech. Can anybody do that?
No.
We need something practical. Like, what can my audience do today? What can my audience donate? What can my audience take action on and participate with? So remember this in your presentation as well. So let's look, if y'all want to, go ahead and turn to the back side here. And I'll use this for now. I'll use this board. If we have a proposition of policy, each of you are going to have the exact 3 main points. Remember, Roman numerals indicate your main points. So I'll go ahead and write those out. The first thing that your first main point is always going to establish are the problems that exist with not having your policy. AKA the need. So in your first main point, your A's, your B's, your C's are going to be problems that are listed here, otherwise known as the reason that we need this policy to begin with. Does that make sense to you all? So it's establishing problems that exist with not having your policy in line. And we're going to put this into lay terms or into actual real terms in a second. But the second thing, in your second main point, and who said address the oppositions? Was that you, Anna?
Yeah.
So with addressing the oppositions, this is incredibly important. And if you've ever taken an English class and you've written a persuasive essay or you've written a persuasive paper, you know that any type of persuasion that doesn't address your opposition's opinion is problematic. It also is problematic because it doesn't allow for you to reach that audience. In persuasion, you have 3 different audiences that we can look at. We have our audience who's already in agreement and already agrees with us. Many of you may already be that audience if we were doing something like to persuade my audience to go to college. If I was giving this to a group of high school students, now I know that I have a group who's already what? like in, like, yeah, I know that I should go to college. Then I have a group of individuals who are in the middle or on the fence, and are like, maybe I'll go to college, maybe I'll take a year off, and I think I'm going to work instead. And then there's the other group, who is the exact opposite of the initial, who's your what? I don't want to go to college, I'm not doing that. Who do you think is my target audience? And why do you say the people in the middle? Okay, if we wanted to look at it in a straight up election, I'm trying to get the most people on my side as possible. So let's say I'm running for like best teacher ever, and this is my group who's like, oh my gosh, Amanda, we're so excited, we make buttons and pins, and we're totally in. And this group's like, jury's still out, I don't know, the semester's not up, I don't know about Amanda yet. And then these people are like, this was the worst class I've ever taken, I'm never talking to her. If I have all these people, and then I have these middle people, and I come in and give them the speech, and they're like, Amanda, you're the best. Now look how many people I have. What do I need those 6 people for? Right? Doesn't mean that we still aren't going to address them. But it's also those people who are on the fence or in opposition that we want to address to get the whole group on board. And that's where we bring up the causes. So the causes, if you think about it much like the opposition, because the way that I'm going to word this becomes a bit confusing for people. So it is the causes of why people are not doing or for your policy. In the case of to persuade my audience that they should not smoke, who is my opposition? People who smoke. To persuade my audience that they should vote for Hillary Clinton, who is my opposition? Anybody who's not voting for Hillary Clinton, right? And so what do we address in that? It's like we address all the reasons as to why they may be against her. So in this causes, we bring up the reasons as to why people aren't on board, why they don't want your policy, why they aren't drinking 8 glasses of water a day. But I don't just list those out, because any old audience may be like, shoot, that is a good reason. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, I'm not doing this either. But instead, you are going to list the causes. So the cause, and then you are going to, in your 1s or 2s or 3s or A's or B's or C's, everything else following that cause is going to be proof that suggests that reason is not valid, true, correct, etc. So you are going to present. Some of you may not want to drink water because you believe it will make this is a good one. If my proposition was to persuade my audience to eat breakfast, how many of you eat breakfast? Okay. How many of you don't eat breakfast? Okay. Why don't you eat breakfast? And we can lay out the many reasons as to why people don't eat breakfast. I'm not hungry anymore. I'm trying to diet. I don't want to cut calories. Okay, excellent. So, if I said the first reason that people aren't eating breakfast is because individuals who are dieting think it's good to cut out a meal to help them lose weight. Rachel would say, that is, okay, good. And so you can say something like, that's wrong, that's sad. But we could say something like, although that is an idea that you may have heard through popular opinion, in fact, not eating breakfast can hinder your ability to lose weight. And then what do? You present them with? Oh, I thought you just said because I told you so. No, no. We then present them with the evidence that's going to prove that. What? My statement is true, that in fact, if you do eat breakfast, it's going to help you lose weight, and then you're going to remind your audience, and that's why you should eat breakfast. Does this make sense? Yeah. So, we give the cause, then we give them some evidence that suggests that you are not correct. So we make those kinds of statements. Although this does sound true, or although you may have gotten that from common opinion, or although you may have read that in many places, let me show you a different perspective. Let me show you an alternative. So your wording of that is up to you. You don't want to say, you're wrong. Let me tell you why I'm right. But that's true, Rachel. They are. But we say it in a way that's not blaming them, but instead enlightening them. Sound good? Then, the final main point that you are going to do, what did my friend not do in my other class?
Conclusion.
What? Give us the what? How? Give us the how. Give us how we're going to do, how are we going to put this into action? So your third main point is always going to be the solutions to making your policy possible. Here, you are going to give different ways that are starts with a p and with an actical, it's called practical, for your audience to take on. This is where you are going to look to, of course, again, research. You're going to look to find out what are people doing to not text and drive. Simply putting down the phone is not going to work. Does everybody know that? Because we're all still going to what? Pick it up. It's an addiction, people. So what in the world are people doing to get individuals to stop texting and driving? Look online. See what the new technology is or what the new ideas are. They're coming up with new things all the time for you to be able to get that 8 glasses of water down, or to get yourself a breakfast, or to perchance exercise during the day, right? There's a bajillion different ways that people are doing it. So ideally, these solutions will be able to take care of any types of problems that existed initially. Now, does that mean that I need to address each problem and show how this solution is going to help this one? This solution, no. So, for example, if I'm talking about eating breakfast, obviously, ways to start incorporating breakfast in my everyday life, if I can put these things into action, are going to take care of all 3 of these problems in general. But make sure that this will be resolved by the end of the speech, and it could, in fact, be something that I could take action on. That my solutions would really help these problems, and thus encourage my audience to take action. Does that make sense to y'all? So let's look at it in lay terms over here on the board that I've written. I'm going to put this here, as you can see, hopefully. And what it says here is an example of a thesis statement. I guess I could write that one out as well. But it says, to persuade my audience that they should not drink and drive. This is my proposition. And let's see how I wrote my main point. I will describe the problems with drinking and driving. Right? So we talk about the current problems with not having a policy. So in this case, it's drinking and driving. So what are the problems? Then I will describe the causes as to why people do drink and drive. And then I will offer you some solutions to not drink and drive. Each of you will have this exact same thesis statement. because you'll have problem, cause, solution. You'll just fill in your own understanding of it. So for example, no, yes. Do you like confused?
No.
Okay. So if I was looking first at the problems with drinking and driving, what are the problems, y'all?
You are.
You know someone?
Okay, I'm going to go with that's the biggest problem. So good, let's just start off with that. So people are dying. And that's either that you're going to kill someone or you kill yourself. So with this, I need to give you, of course, evidence. But am I going to talk about, like 30 to 40-year-olds who are dying? What do I need to do to appeal to my particular audience? Kids? 12-year-olds? I'm kidding.
Young adults.
16.
You have to go in.
For kids.
College students.
Why?
Why?
Because they're
Because you all think you're invincible. And that's why you drive fast and reckless and with alcohol in your system. Good for you. Take the bus. But you know who's not taking the bus? Drinking drivers. Absolutely. Drinking drivers. So we want to encourage you that I am not saying that your evidence always has to appeal to this audience, but the kind of credibility that is brought about in something called a goodwill, remember, like our best intention toward our audience, is by providing them with evidence that makes sense to who. If I start talking about outlandish ideas, or I want you to get health insurance because I'm worried about you when you're 80, it's hard for college students to grasp onto that, or things that don't appeal or apply to them. So when we start putting in evidence that is relatable to them, that's when it makes sense. So find evidence that applies. So people are dying, and if you don't kill someone, you may end up killing yourself. The other thing that can happen is you can get into an accident, right? And you can get into an accident. That can not only harm you, but it can harm other people, so we can give evidence to prove that to be true. And then the last thing, which you all said, because that's what you're most concerned about, is this crazy thing called a DUI. But let me tell you that if you do A or B, you're also going to have a DUI. And if you kill someone, nobody's giving you a slap on the hand. You're going where? To jail. For how long? Ever! And if you get in an accident and you ruin and damage things while you have a DUI, how long are you going to jail? For a while. And if you get a DUI, guess where you're going? Jail. But you're not only going to jail, you're paying how much?
$20,000.
About $10,000? You're paying about $10,000. And I don't know if any of you have that in court fees, in classes, in parole, in all of that stuff to go on with. Then, guess what with that DUI? Do you know how long you can't drive for? A year. And then, do you know what happens to your car insurance? You know how much you will pay for car insurance?
What?
About $800 a month. Do you have $800 a month to pay for your car? No. And then, after you've studied so hard in college, and you go to apply for your first job, and it says, have you ever been convicted of something? You have to say yes. And then it says what? And you're like, DUI. And they're like, gee, should I hire this irresponsible person who was stupid enough to drink and drive? Or should I hire this person who doesn't have as much experience, but at least is responsible? So, how long also is it on your record? 10 years. It is on your record for 10 years. So don't try to go out and purchase a car or get a loan or do anything else as well. So this is the kind of information that's what? Appealing to who? Yeah, you're not just going to get to jail and paying a fine. Your life is what? Screwed for how many years? 10 years. Give us evidence and prove that's true, and then you remind us what? And that's why you shouldn't? That's right, you shouldn't. All right. Now, let's look at the other one. What are the... Oh, we only have 3 minutes. All right. What are the causes as to why people are still drinking and driving? Ew. know how many times I hear that? Let's listen to this. What did you say?
Me?
No, not you.
It's fun.
It's fun. I think, do you know how many times that's a real statement? You can find evidence on it, and people think that it's fun to kill people. Okay, it's not laughing. I'm not laughing at you!
So another cause
Yeah.
would be that they don't, have money for like an Uber or
Because they spent it on what?
drinking. Their judgment is fogged.
Oh my gosh, I'm fine!
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I only had 2 glasses. I'm fine. Are you fine?
No.
Okay, so let's lay this out. People think that they're fine. There's your claim. Now, what's your job? Not to persuade them, but to prove them that they are wrong. Now, you may be fine because maybe you weigh like 250 pounds, you had a heavy meal, and you had 2 glasses of wine over the course of an hour. However, so you may be fine to drive. Everything may be good. But the bottom line is they're going to make you do a what? A test, a breathalyzer test, and a sobriety test. And if you've ever seen those little handy handouts where it shows you how much you weigh and how much you can drink and what it's going to be, those charts, if you weigh a specific amount, and if it's this amount of time and you're drinking this much, nature and science is going to have you blow a particular number. And remember, buzz driving is drunk driving. So you blow on that marker, and you're going to get what? It's a no-brainer. So it doesn't matter how fine you think you are. You may very well not be fine, and you may be not fine enough in the scale, thus putting you back in jail. So this reason or this cause isn't a valid one, and one needs to find a different reason, and that's why you should stop drinking and driving. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how you present it. So I don't have money. Then don't go out in the first place. What you doing? Stop drinking all that alcohol. Also, the other deal is that you need to know your cab driver's rights. If you get in a cab and say, I need to go here, it's not like they ask you for the money to begin with, right? So what do you do?
They'll kick you out of the cab.
No, they won't. Know your cab driver's rights. Once I'm in, can't do anything. Unless I vomit or something.
If you say you have no money, they might.
Maybe
Right, yeah, nobody needs to say that.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to disclose that information. So know your cab driver's rights. Once I'm in, I'm in. So you get on the phone to your gal pal and you're like, girl, I'm coming to your house and you should come outside for $20. You put it on a credit card. You know what a credit card is? Oh, God, I don't want to put $50 on my credit card. I don't want to put $10,000 on my credit card for that DUI. Do you see these reasons? All right. And then I offer you some solution. Does everybody think they're going to be able to provide us with a general purpose, a proposition, and a thesis statement? Really quick. If I was looking at this Uber example, and I need my 3 main points, what's my first main point going to be? The problems with not using Uber. You know what I mean? Problem with not having it. Then we will talk about as to, look behind you, causes of why people are not doing your policy. Causes as to why people are not using Uber. And finally, offer you some to there you go. You need to spell that all out. You just can't say it by talking about the problems, causes, and solutions. Okay? That isn't your homework. You will not get credit for that. You need to say the problems with not, or the problems with, or the problems with. Yeah? All right, everybody. You are all super smart cookies. I will look for your topics tomorrow by noon on eCompanion underneath the persuasive speech topic approval. And that's the end of that story. Okay, let's push stop.